Right, I promised I would update you on my writing intentions. I declared that it was time I was writing a novel, and I was boring myself to death not writing a novel. So here I go. I was whinging in my head, and I was sufficiently bored with the whinging that it was time to start writing. So this is the beginning. The house is on a sharp bend in the road out of Stockford on the way to Pendle. It's a vicious turning which milk lorries and tractors are forced to grind their gears around to avoid slithering into the steep hedge on one side and Ellen's buttressed wall on the other. You can see how once this might have been an alehouse, a place for passing farm workers to stop and take their rest. There's a mounting block to the side of the building and a wide enough entrance to take a wagon. It's a building you wonder about as you drive past. Is it a house or a barn? Is it a pub or a farm? The windows on the roadside are always muddied. Ellen doesn't care. This is the north side of the house, and the door in the porch there hasn't been opened since she moved in. Through the wide entrance, though, facing southwest, you see why she took the place. You drive in and park in a small yard. To your right is a hulk of a barn. Its roof sagging, doors rotten. They drag screeching over the yard stone when opened and shut. It's a useful place for lambing, though, and keeping the chickens in when there's a bird flu scare. And then on your left, you open a small gate in a picket fence, which Ellen patches from time to time, and which she paints in what Tessa insists on calling Bayou Blue. And you're in a strip of cottage garden, full on hollyhocks and lavender, and a rose called Phyllis Bide, rambling over this south side of the house. This strip is barely 8 foot wide, but wide enough for a bench, table, 2 folding outdoor chairs. Here, what is officially the back door is nearly always open. Standing with your back to the door, you look away across the land and see why Ellen lives there. In front of you is a small patchwork of enclosures: vegetable garden, cut flower patch, orchard, peopled by sheep and a goat on a long chain. There's a stile you can see out of the orchard into the field beyond, which must be a water meadow because there's a ramble of pollard willows making a line down the middle of it. There's a trodden path too through those meadows to a distant church tower, Pendle. Pendle's hardly a village, the church being the only remaining building from the community which was killed off there by the plague in the late 1300s. Other than the church roof and its diminutive, unconfident tower, you can see no other buildings, just the remains of a stone shed in the field to the right. Ellen is 50, single, has never had any children, and she makes what she considers a valuable, not rich, valuable living on this little small holding. She's not expensive to keep. The rent is reasonable. Her landlady now, Lady Susie at Bag Enderby, is really just glad someone's living in the cottage. If old cottages are left empty, they fall down fast, she says. There's no money to do it all up, but Ellen likes it. It suits her. And it suits her because she's decided what's important to her. And she will live by those precepts: community, history, place. And by community, she means that if you're going to live somewhere and you like it, you work out what it is about a place that makes it so likeable, and then you have to play a part in maintaining that. She's lived in or around Stockford most of her life. She went to primary school in the town, was sent to Queen Anne's by her mother, who was determined to give her daughter all the chances. She ended up in Paris in her 20s, being the chanced young woman her mother had dreamed of. These days, she thanks her lucky stars she managed to escape that Paris life. Well, it was fun, but not to use the current jargon, sustainable as a life. And then she came back and disappointed her mother by taking this place because it is very cheap, and she thought she could make something of it. Well, it's a tumble-down cottage with a tumble-down barn, 3 acres to grow on, fine meadows to look at, and a vicious turn in a main road hugging the north side of the house. So what does she do to maintain the history, the place, the community? Well, she's church warden of Pendle Church. Even if sometimes she's the only member of the congregation when Stephen comes to take the once-a-month service there. She loves the history of the church, the continuity. You walk in there and can feel that people have been focusing on the common good in that space for nearly 1,000 years. It was waved upon as a good place to build a church by imperious Queen Matilda as she passed by in the 1100s. And who were the people who lived there then to gainsay a queen? So there's community and history, and for place, well, Ellen stands this spring morning on her doorstep and sniffs the wind. In her hand, a tray of lettuce seedlings. She leaves her kitchen tidy. Her coffee cup is washed up, the kitchen table brushed clean of crumbs. She's learned in her old age that to be orderly makes life much easier. This thoughtful living she earns is easier to make if she keeps the ingredients simple. From no credit card to only changing her clothes if she's going out. From giving up washing her hair to pretty much only eating what she can grow. If you keep your costs down, she thinks, then you have to do less work. Her outgoings are small, but she gets her house, her barn, and her 3 acres for the rent. And so long as she can sell a little every week, then she can run her small van herself, feed the sheep and the chickens, and live here. She posts a picture of the view on her business Facebook page with a reminder that she'll be at Stopford Farmers Market on Friday with purple sprouting broccoli, kale, leeks, goat's cheese, and freshly laid eggs from hens roaming the orchard in this very view. She better get on and plant these lettuces out. Right, that's it. It's a start. I started more kind of energetically, and then I thought I should slow down and be more organised. The thing about writing, if you haven't written for a long time, is that your head is full of stuff that you need to just kind of get out onto the page. So I did that, and I put that in a file somewhere else. And this is the first piece of proper writing. And reading it out loud, it's always worth reading out loud because you feel the rhythm of the writing, and you see if you trip up on the language. You hear if you're repeating yourself. You see things that you don't necessarily see if you're just reading what you've written down. And so it's a very good way to edit, to read out loud. So thank you for forbearing with me while I read out loud. I have an idea. So I have various things I want to talk about. And I'm going to use Ellen as my protagonist. She has a much more interesting backstory than you would have got from reading this, my previous novel, in which she features. This is All Desires Known, which is about a character who's named there Tessa, who's married to the vicar, Stephen. Anyway, so a lot of those characters that you met here will be back for this novel, but some quite exciting things are going to happen to the whole area. Somebody said in one of the comments to my previous post about writing that cosy novels with murder mysteries in them do well. So there may be some murder mystery action, but it may not be, current. I'm not sure. Not sure anyone's going to boff the vicar on the back of the head and leave him floating in the River Hind. Maybe they will. Anyway, I hope you like the opening. The idea is to give you a strong sense of place and a sense that Ellen feels very planted there. and the next scene is the beginning of nothing ever being the same. And so her idea of maintaining a sense of place, community and history is going to be very challenged while she plants out her lettuces. Anyway, thanks very much for forbearing, and I will give you some more if you'd like when I've written a bit more. Slowly. That's just, yeah, no, enough. More next time.